Trump's first term, he insulted and alienated many of the United States' long-standing allies. His return to the White House has huge consequences for everything from global trade to climate change to conflicts around the world. And here to discuss how European leaders are reacting to Trump's victory is France 24's Europe editor, Armen Georgian. Hello there.
Hi, Charlie.
You just came here straight from Brussels. You were at the European Parliament.
Yeah.
Give us a vibe check. What was it like there today?
Well, it's funny, Charlie, you mentioned climate change. So I actually just did a debate with some MEPs about what all this means for COP29. And one of my guests said, could the makeup people make him look a bit more cheerful on the outside than he actually was inside? And I think that probably it goes for many MEPs at the moment who are maybe not in shock exactly, but feeling a little bit grim, to be honest. And he wasn't the only one who gave me that impression. And he was saying, well, this COP now rests on Europe's shoulders. Europe has got to show a lot more climate leadership than it would have done otherwise, because obviously whatever the current US administration says at COP29, it could and probably will be reversed by Donald Trump within a few months. So that's just a snapshot of how suddenly Europe is kind of thrust into the center of these kind of situations where it has to actually kind of step up a lot more than perhaps it would have than it would have done if the result in the US had gone the other way. And I think, yeah, there was definitely quite a somber mood, I would say. I mean, the only faction at the European Parliament that was obviously happy, and I saw one person with a "Make America Great" hat, the red hat cap, which you don't see a lot in Brussels, and certainly not in the EU institutions. But the Patriots for Europe, which is kind of the pro-Trump faction, they're obviously very much looking forward to this. We've had reactions from populist political parties across the EU who are very excited about this result.
Contrastly, though, the statements and messages of congratulations that are coming out publicly from European leaders seem to have some enthusiasm.
Well, I think they're being very politically correct, and my takeaway from all the official statements, I mean, at the level of, the European Commission president of the EU Council, national leaders such as Mr. Macron or Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, all of those, I get the impression that they're calibrating things. They're kind of treading very carefully, that they want to kind of send an initial signal that they really want to work with Donald Trump. All of those leaders that I just mentioned, they all talk in their statements or tweets about cooperating with the new US administration. And it's a very different tone from what Donald Trump said at one of his very recent rallies when he was very sarcastic about the European Union. He said, the European Union sounds so nice, so lovely, all those nice European countries that get together. So he was obviously being very ironic and insisting that he would make sure that Europe pays a heavy price, as he put it, on trade. So the Europeans, for their part today, are trying to kind of offer, I don't know, maybe olive branch is the wrong expression, but at least kind of show that they want to work with the president, play ball, but what they're saying in private is probably something quite different.
Now, Trump has inferred that he does not really want to pay for the war in Ukraine. He has expressed anger at the U.S. spending more money than a lot of other NATO members. If necessary, is Europe ready to go it alone?
Well, I think that's really the crucial question, Charlie. You've kind of put your finger on it. I mean, there are numerous indications that when it comes to ammunition production and that military help for Ukraine, the all-important for Ukraine provision of shells, delivery of shells, that on that the EU is lagging behind. And also all the joint procurement schemes that it's come up with in response to the war, that remember, for a lot of those things, the EU actually relies on American military hardware. So what happens to all that under a Trump presidency is a huge question. And then, on the commercial issues as well, the trade issues, is Europe actually ready to impose robust retaliatory tariffs on Trump? That's another huge question, because if, finally the EU came to a decision about tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, it kind of showed that it was standing up for its own competitiveness and its own electric industries. But if you actually look at the finer points of the final vote on Chinese electric vehicles, it was a very divided European Union. It was not a unified position. And if it was that difficult to get everyone together on Chinese electric cars, imagine how hard it's going to be to get everyone together on a unified trade stance towards Donald Trump, particularly at a time when German auto industries are in trouble. Does Olaf Scholz want major trade and geopolitical tensions with Trump? I think that's a huge question. A lot of other huge questions as well. What kind of role will Giorgia Meloni, the Italian leader, play? Because so far she's been quite Atlanticist, but is she going to flip, as some commentators have said, and take kind of more of a, pro-Trump line on various things? All of this to say, Charlie, there's huge potential in the EU for splits on a Donald Trump presidency.
Just want to add that we are getting word from the Élysée Palace now, the presidential palace here in France, that President Emmanuel Macron, had a, quote, very good exchange with Donald Trump on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, well, you remember a few years ago, Macron hosted Donald Trump and flattered him in a way that he knew would impress Trump, and there was a big sort of fanfare. Trump was very well treated in Paris. He had, the nice dinners, and he was taken to various places. There was the presidential guard was rolled out, and so Macron always tries to use a kind of personal in to a leader. The problem is that they did kind of eventually fall out on policy, the two of them, Macron and Trump, going back several years, and that probably has not been forgotten by either of them.
Sounds like it's going to be an interesting and busy year for you, Armen.
Probably, yeah.
Thank you so much for that.